Welcome all to the Pro Football Radio Podcast with your co-host, and our senior contributor, Eric Berg, this week with the Berg. Fellas, welcome into podcast number 77.
Championship weekend. Pew, pew, pew!
Yep.
It's going to be great.
Before we get into any of it, let me give the listeners a quick rundown of what we're going to talk about today. We'll break down the Deshaun Watson scenario. We'll talk about the divisional round matchup, and then we'll also preview the two games in the conference championship. Before all that, Puma, looks like you are a new permit holder, correct?
Yep. Jumped through all the hoops for the great state of Connecticut. Got my pistol and revolver carry approval permit, so finally crossed that finish line. Got the gun safe and everything. Gonna keep that thing locked up in the house. It would have been great to go down to the gun range today to use it a bit. Go down and test out a few guns before I start buying anything. But there's no ammo to be found, and it's funny because I was halfway back from the other side of Connecticut towards like the Rhode Island border because I had to go to the state police barracks out there to get the permit and whatnot. And it dawned on me that the gun store is probably going to be a madhouse the day before the inauguration. And sure enough, it was fucking insane in there. Like, everybody was looking for ammo. Everybody was, like, trying to buy guns last minute because they have it in their mind that Biden is going to start signing some executive orders, like, as soon as his ass hits the seats, restricting gun rights. I don't think it's going to happen, like, the first day, but that's a discussion for another day. But everybody and their brother was there, and here I am, like, I'm just trying to, like, you know, go to the range and shoot some stuff, and the guy comes out after getting, like, this tray ready for me to try out, like, 3 different 9mm handguns, and he's like, so I just went in the back, and we don't have any 9mm in here. And it's like, wow. Great, okay. And the kicker to all that is before we even did anything, I filled out paperwork. He asked me what I was looking for. And I was like, well, I'm not sure. Kind of leaning towards a revolver, like 357. I can also put like a 38 special in there or a 9. I don't really know. And he's like, oh, well, 38 special at 357. It's damn near impossible to find ammo. But 9mm. I'm like, what do you mean 9mm is easier to find? Like, I figure that's like gold. Like, how can you... Like, nobody can find that right now. I mean, I'm not saying it's not impossible, but there's a higher chance of getting 9mm compared to that. And then Sunshine walks out and is like, oh, I don't have 9. It's like, oh, you could have fucking told me that like 30 minutes ago, guy. But my favorite part of the whole day was when I went to the barracks and I had to fill out like this little index card, put my name, date of birth, social security number, all that address, previous address that I lived at. And the last box I had to fill in was, what is the purpose of getting the permit? And it's like, well, everyone and their brother is going to say home defense or self-defense. Like, nobody's going to write armed robbery or like, hey, home defense, but like, I also have violent tendencies, so who knows? Like, so stupid, so dumb. But I feel like the only reason why that box was there was because somebody was stupid enough to put that out there in the first place.
So I assume insurrection and overthrowing of the democratic process is not a good answer for that.
No.
No.
All
right. Okay.
Well, if it's an inside job, maybe. Maybe.
Now let me ask you a question: are you one of those guys that's just gonna get one gun, or are you gonna like become one of those guys that has like a closet that's hidden in your house somewhere, and you have like 19 million weapons in there? Like, what kind of guy are you?
I mean, I would like a rifle or a shotgun at some point. I did get like the larger gun safe because Tara, for those of you that don't know, is my fiance. She's also interested in getting a pistol permit as well too. So like, I got a case.
God, are you serious?
I got a case.
What is happening to Tara? I got a case. Oh my God!
Where you can fit 2 full-size handguns and ammo and magazines in there. But like, obviously, if I get something bigger like a shotgun or a rifle, then I'm just gonna get an actual gun safe. I'm not gonna have it lying around.
Now, Burge, I've known Tara and Brandon as 2 separate individuals, and I've known them as a couple, right? And they're both my closest friends, right? And it's unfortunate because I bring up this to them all the time. They're becoming one person, right? Like, I used to have jokes with Tara and jokes with Brandon, but now it's just talking to one fucking person all the time. And now she's going to become a gun owner like you as well? Brandon, what are you doing?
I'm not doing anything. She has to, She asked me what the permit process was. I'm like, it's not that bad. It's just like because of COVID, it was so backed up. I'm like, otherwise, like you'd only have to fill out like a small stack of papers. You probably would have gotten the temporary permit in 60 days. You could just show up at a barracks, get your stuff done. No big deal. But because of COVID, everything was backed up. So she's like, let me see how like the process plays out with you, and then maybe like I'll go try to get my permit. So I'm not forcing anything on anybody. This is all natural, dude. I'm not doing shit.
The other day, like, I was texting her about something, and she wrote back, like, Ope or something, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, what is happening? Where is my friend Tara? Where is Brandon? It's just one fucking, like, Brandon Tara, like, mixed match thing right now. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it.
So would that be Brera?
Whatever you want to call it.
It's the natural process of domestication. That's what it is. It's a natural process. We all go through it at some point. I'm going through it now.
All right. You guys want to talk some football?
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to give us a rundown of the situation or the dumpster fire down in Houston, Puma?
I think the latter term is the more accurate one. But long story short, if you don't have a Twitter account, just Google Deshaun Watson Twitter. But essentially, there's according to some reports, there's a massive falling out between upper management and ownership of the Houston Texans and their franchise quarterback, Deshaun Watson. They were going through this whole process. Ownership was of trying to find a new general manager and a new head coach. And before the season even ended, Cal McNair, the owner of the team, employed like a executive council of like Andre Johnson, Tony Dungy, and a couple of other folks to be involved with helping in the hiring process. And then they also spent about $500,000 for a private firm to help look for a general manager candidate as well, which essentially what they did was they burned a pile of cash and they wasted everybody's time because they went out and hired their guy that they wanted in the first place, that being Nick Caserio, former director of player personnel for the New England Patriots, also buddy with the infamous preacher Jack Easterby, former Patriot as well. And right after that hire, Deshaun Watson tweeted out, basically, same song, second verse, or something along those lines. But he was pissed about it, and he wasn't returning their calls, and he wasn't getting back to their messages or text messages. And it just has been deteriorating ever since. He hasn't felt like he's been involved in the head coaching search for the job. He wanted an interview for Eric Bieniemy, and it took him going to Twitter to air out the dirty laundry. And they finally got an interview with Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, along with Leslie Frazier and a couple other people. But it's gone really sour down in Houston. And I mean, you can just look at the last two Sports Illustrated articles and read that. It's a lengthy read, but it's definitely worth it. And it outlines everything perfectly. But it's definitely not a desirable job if you're a head coach, and people are saying that Deshaun Watson he wants out of Houston. He played his last snap. He wants to trade, and everybody's having this early media cycle of where's Deshaun Watson going to go? Is he going to get traded? What's it going to take for him to get moved? And I mean, I'm in the minority that says he's not getting traded. But you guys could air your stuff.
Well, listen, I think the two tweets that really made it real for me, because for just like in your situation, Puma, I thought Deshaun Watson wasn't going to get traded until about 4 days ago, and now there's just so much smoke around this situation down in Houston that there's got to be a raging fire behind the scenes, right? And the tweet that Adam Schefter sent out that says there's a growing sense from people in and around the Texans organization that Deshaun Watson has played his last snap for the team. It's early in the offseason. There's a lot of time left, but Watson's feeling cannot and should not be underestimated. Kind of really opened my eyes. And then he had one more tweet later on where it said, Texans have had internal conversations about possible trade partners for Deshaun Watson and what their quarterback position would look like in the future without him. So, I mean, those two tweets, when I saw them, I was like, all right, maybe this thing definitely has some legs. And, we understand that Deshaun Watson is one hell of a player and you don't want to ship off a great top 5 quarterback. But it seems like the relationship has soured so badly that it might not be repairable. And on top of that, the way I see this panning out is the Texans are going to make make that age-old mistake that they're not going to give up and they're going to bury it and they're going to force Deshaun Watson to play. And they're going to have one bad year coming up where Deshaun Watson's not going to be happy. He's not going to give his full effort. He's probably going to become a problem in the locker room where he's going to permeate some negative feelings about the organization, because apparently the feelings are not just about the on-field play or the personnel. It's also some deeper-rooted issues that he has with the ownership group about social justice causes, blah, blah. So it's going to be interesting how this pans out. I think it's best to trade him away, but I do believe the Texans are going to make that mistake of essentially forcing him to play and having two unhappy parties with the ownership group and the player trying to coexist for another year or so.
Jay, I'm kind of with you on that. I think that they ultimately may end up forcing him to stay next year, despite how unhappy he is. Mm-hmm. But can we just take a step back and just see how dumb Cal McNair and that upper management ownership of that team really is for letting this situation get to this point? You know how hard it is to find a legit starting quarterback in the NFL. The Patriots are going through it right now. You look back at the history of the quarterbacks for the Houston Texans. I mean, their longest starter was Matt Schaub, and I mean, he was, effective when he was there, but I mean, he wasn't anything like the talent that Deshaun Watson is. They found something with Deshaun Watson that they could really build around, and it just speaks volumes to how dumb they are at the top of this organization to let it get to this point. They spent money on Brock Osweiler hoping he was going to be the guy. He definitely was not the guy, and it seems like they're destined to be in that position again, because it seems like Deshaun Watson has been ridden out of town with how they've handled everything.
It's just a sad situation because it seems like there's a lot more behind the scenes that we don't know yet, and I think this is going to start to rumble and percolate more as the offseason kind of rolls on. We're deep into playoff territory right now with the championship games and the Super Bowl coming up, so it's kind of still on the back burner, but the second that's over, like, the biggest story of the offseason is going to be Deshaun Watson and where he's going to end up, right? And there's some suitable trade partners, right? I mean, people are throwing around, the Miami Dolphins or the New York Jets or San Francisco 49ers, the Chicago Bears, or New England Patriots. I mean, there's odds to essentially where he'll land. And if I'm Deshaun Watson, man, I'm doing whatever I possibly can to end up somewhere like in a stable organization, like maybe Miami now with the coaching staff there, right? It seems like the coaching staff in Miami really has their shit together. I don't know if they will go through with it, but Miami has the draft capital and maybe two they can send back to Houston for that player, Deshaun Watson. So I'm gonna ask a question to you guys. Like, let's say that he does end up getting traded. Where do you think he'll end up landing?
I mean,
go ahead, Puma.
Not Miami. As a Miami Dolphins fan, he could get traded there. We have the draft capital. We have the cap space to take on that contract, which most of it's already been paid for because the Texans already paid for the signing bonus. But we don't have a coordinator. We're going on year 3. We still don't have a run game, and we can't mortgage our draft capital. And on top of that, Houston's going to want players back. It's not just going to be like Tua and a couple of draft picks. They're going to probably want Byron Jones and probably Christian Wilkins and fill a lot of holes on that defense. So you then have to narrow the window down to what trade partner could you get young, cheap, Pro Bowl caliber talent to go to Houston to fit their cap situation, because Houston's cap is in cap hell right now. And I think that might limit the suitors down to probably San Francisco if they want to part ways with a couple of players on the defensive front for that team that are still on first-year deals for a little bit. Chicago might be a bridge too far just because Khalil Mack's contract is an albatross. Definitely not in the AFC. Definitely not in the AFC South. They are not going to play this guy 2 times a year. I think it's going to be somebody in the NFC, if anything.
I'm with you, Puma. I think that the most logical landing spot, at least from Deshaun Watson's perspective, he should want to end up in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan. Yep. You got an established run game there, with Coleman and Mostert. And then you get to play with George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and Deebo Samuel. That's an instant fit for Deshaun Watson, and it would jump San Francisco right up into contention in the NFC if they make that move.
But I tell you what, man, I think the fact that if he somehow ends up with the 49ers, I mean, that's instantly like probably top like 2 or 3 in the NFC to make the Super Bowl. I mean, that's just stabilizing the whole organization. They've got a great defense with Bosa coming back off his injury. They've got a brilliant mind in Kyle Shanahan who's going to put Deshaun Watson in the best spots possible. I know our buddy Mikey P is going to be losing his mind if Deshaun Watson ends up out there, but for his sake, I think San Francisco is the best spot. And if that doesn't work, even New York, man, I think New York has a lot to offer for Deshaun. I mean, they have so much draft capital, and it seems that they really don't know what they're going to do with Sam Darnold just yet. Are they going to take Justin Fields, Zach Wilson? I mean, if you have so many questions at quarterback, why not just go get Deshaun Watson at the number 2 spot, send that away with a couple more firsts in the next couple of years? That might be a great landing spot for him, because I think Deshaun Watson in the New York media market could be wonders.
Well, I think it's ultimately going to come down to where Deshaun Watson wants to go. I mean, he's got a no-trade clause, so that's what it's ultimately going to come down to.
Yep.
Right. I mean, I'm gonna stick. I'll still be in the minority. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't think he's leaving Houston, and I think he didn't even want. He just wanted to be involved in the hiring process. Like, he's not banging the table for Eric Bieniemy to be hired. He just wanted Bieniemy to be interviewed based on conversations that he had with Patrick Mahomes. And it's kind of sad that he had to start doing passive aggressive stuff on Twitter, but it got the point across. And if you read the latest Sports Illustrated article by Jenny Vrentas and Gary Grambling, and I'm spacing the other guy's name, but it's not really just Deshaun Watson wanting out. He's speaking for the entire locker room. They're tired of Jack Easterby. They're tired of Cal McNair getting conned by let's be honest, the charlatan in Jack Easterby. There's been reports, Jason LaConfort was talking about this today, that there's a strong base for Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills, to possibly end up being the head coach down there. And I think you get a player-friendly coach like Leslie Frazier. You keep Tim Kelly, the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans right now, and Deshaun Watson's been on the record saying he loves Tim Kelly, and he stepped his game up over the last 2 years as offensive coordinator. I think if you do those two things and you end up finding a way to keep Will Fuller on this roster, you might not. I still think you have to fire Jack Easterby, but you might not have to get that. Cal McNair gets his buddy still. You get a player-friendly head coach, an offensive coordinator that understands what Deshaun Watson wants and doesn't want. Get him more involved in the game plan, and you get his best buddy and probably one of the better wide receivers in the NFL on that roster as well too. You could soothe these ruffled tail feathers, and you're in cap hell. You're not going to sign this guy to an extension just to trade him for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, and they got to figure out very soon what they want to do with Deshaun Watson, right? Because, nothing is going to mend that relationship now in my eyes. The only thing that could possibly keep him there longer is if they won, and they won big, and I don't see winning in their future anytime soon, right? Like they say, winning cures all. I don't think they're going to win enough for him to be happy. So they've got to figure out as soon as possible. And the one thing I hope they don't do is I hope they do not capitulate to his demands and hire somebody they don't see as the best fit for the head coach. Because I am firmly in the belief that Eric Bieniemy is not a good head coaching candidate. It's not anything against Eric Bieniemy himself. I just hate when offensive coordinators that essentially are on the staff with a great quarterback, whether it's Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes, whether it's Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady, whether it's Adam Gase and Peyton Manning. I just hate that those offensive coordinators are looked at as head coaches when maybe they're not really the best. Because, how hard is it to coach a Tom Brady or a Patrick Mahomes? What are you doing for those guys, right? So I hope they do something that's in his best interest, because if they hire somebody that's not ready for the job, it might be even worse than what it is now, because now you got a pissed off Deshaun Watson that's also losing, and the head coach isn't actually what he thought it was going to be.
And let's keep in mind, too, he hasn't asked for a trade yet. He hasn't asked for a trade. The agent hasn't asked for a trade yet. It's just a bunch of passive-aggressive stuff going on Twitter at this point.
From what people are saying, and I think Adam Schefter said this as well, he's holding that card till the last possible moment.
Right, he wants to see what the coach is.
He knows once he says that, then there's no coming back from that,
Yeah. I mean, they're still looking for a head coach at this point. If they get a head coach that he likes, he's for example, Leslie Frazier, just because LaConfort was really banging the table on this. Let's say it's Leslie Frazier. A lot of people highly doubt that he would say, over my dead body, damn the torpedoes, I am not throwing a pass for Leslie Frazier.
Yeah.
Like if it was anybody that maybe got, Easterby or Casario's laundry from the laundromat that got hired as a head coach, then he might push the nuclear button and say, I want out of here. But like if they get the right coach, he'll stay on that roster. You have a better chance of J.J. Watt getting traded than Deshaun Watson getting out of that franchise.
But I think maybe you don't want to confront the fact that this might be a non-salvageable situation, because even if he does get the right head coach, it's not going to quell those issues he has with Cal McNair and some of the stuff he's alluded to. Some of the stuff that people around him have alluded to with the social injustice causes and this and that. I mean, like when you have Cal McNair's father essentially saying you don't let the prisoners run the
inmates run the asylum.
Inmate run the asylum. Like I mean, that's essentially saying that Deshaun Watson is the inmate and the NFL is the asylum, right? Like, I mean, how can you come back from that? Because Cal McNair probably has some sort of thought process like that as well in his mind.
I mean, you gotta hold some of this on Deshaun Watson too. He's the one that did sign that extension.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Early this year, after Bill O'Brien traded
his buddy
DeAndre Hopkins for next to nothing. So he's not going to get away scot-free in this. He made his bed when he signed that extension. He didn't have to do that. And, I think the Texans really could go a long way with just canning Easterby at this point. He's obviously doing no good. You've heard other players come out against, and former players. Andre Johnson came out against him, seeing, since he showed up, it's gone downhill. I mean, Easterby's got to have something on Cal McNair at this point to be sticking around. And I like Deshaun Watson as a player. I'd love him to be here in New England, but I just hope everything works out for him down there because he's a great talent, and I want to see him win something down there.
Wow. Okay. Any last thoughts before we move on to the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills preview? I'm sorry, analysis.
No, put it on the board. Watson stays. Watts out. There you go.
So and the way I see it's panning out is I think they're going to force him to play next year, but I think by the time trade deadline comes around, you're going to really start hearing quite a bit of buzz about Deshaun Watson. I think he's going to really press hard around trade deadline time if they're losing to get traded away at that point. So we'll see how it goes. But let's move on to analysis of divisional round. We had the Baltimore Ravens going up to Buffalo to play the Bills. They ended up losing 17-3. Really had a pretty pitiful performance, but our resident Bills fan on the podcast, Puma, was probably very happy about that.
God forbid.
Rare form.
Puma, how are you taking this win? How excited are you? What was your thoughts on the game?
I mean, I was stoked because I've been on here banging the table for the Bills to go to the Super Bowl, and they just have to go through Kansas City, one more river to cross, and they're going to Tampa. But no, I mean, for leading up into this game, Burr, you guys were on here. Burr just a little bit more louder, thinking that the Ravens were going to just run all over the Buffalo defense. National media was thinking the same thing. In the first drive, it certainly looked that way. I mean, the first drive, they were moving the ball at will on the ground. I think they only attempted like 2 pass plays. They got lucky with an offside call, but they had to settle for an attempted field goal. But Justin Tucker missed it, and the rest is kind of history. And the Ravens didn't look ready throughout the entire game. They made a business decision to sit Mark Ingram. That was kind of head scratching. I get it. Like, you don't want to be on the hook if he gets hurt in the game. But, I mean, at this point, you're in the playoffs. Like, you want to play to win. He is a thumper inside the tackles. You could run on Buffalo if you did that. But they just looked out of sorts. The snapper had a very rough day at the office. Leslie Frazier called a great defensive game. Sean McDermott called a great game as well, too. They played zone a lot. They didn't really give Jackson a lot of avenues to run. He looked confused in the pocket, threw a brutal pick six to seal the game. And weather did play a factor. Like, Josh Allen missed some people down deep. He kept trying to take the deep shot with Stephon Diggs, but he had a good connection in the game with Smokey Brown, John Brown. Kind of called that last week. But they did enough to win. The defense did its job, and another premature exit for the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs.
And now let's go over to the resident Bills hater on the podcast. Burge, how did you take the win of the Buffalo Bills? How did you take it in? What's your analysis? What's your thoughts? Let us know.
Watching the first half of that game, I was feeling pretty good going into halftime. I'm like, wow, look at this Bills offense looked completely different than they looked all year. Obviously, you can say that the wind played a factor in this game, but they proved in this game that they are a one-dimensional team. All right, I think they attempted 2 runs in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. One of them might have been a scramble attempt from Josh Allen. But hey, going into the halftime, I was feeling great. I think that the Lamar Jackson runs weren't there. Why Greg Roman continued to go to that is beyond me. They should have been handing the ball off to Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins because they were getting through the line, with some relative ease in the first half of that game. And even going into the second half, when the Bills opened up the half with their best drive of the game, hands down, their best drive of the game, going down for a touchdown, and then Lamar Jackson and the Ravens going down the field with relative ease to getting basically in a goal-to-go situation. I was feeling great. Listening to the game, I was actually driving at that point, so I was listening, but I felt great. And then Teron Johnson made a terrific play on that pick six to basically seal the game at that point. At that point, I was like, this game's over. There's no way the Ravens are gonna come back from this. But you could take a lot away from Lamar Jackson in this game. And Ravens offense as a whole, they did not adapt to start the second half in any way. The center Macari for the Ravens, oh my God, dude, that guy should never play center again. He was awful all game. Could not figure out how to snap the ball. Absolutely brutal. Hats off to the Bills. They're going to their first AFC Championship game in 27 years, something like that. All around, though, watching the game, I was falling asleep during this game. It was so boring watching that first half of the game. And, hats off to the Bills. They're going to the AFC Championship game. Puma, your fandom is evident as with your Josh Allen post pre-game, as I requested from you with that Josh Allen jersey. You looked ugly as hell. I'll say that.
Hey, it
wearing that
worked.
jersey.
Wow.
But I wouldn't say it worked. I mean,
Wow.
both offenses in this game were borderline mediocre. The Bills showed me nothing to think that they're, a Super Bowl champion team, as I've heard from Buffalo fans for the last month and a half, that they're going to win the Super Bowl this year and run the table on the AFC East for the next 10 years. Hats off to them. Their defense stepped up when they needed to. But I think the biggest takeaway from this is that Lamar Jackson is he's going to be a good quarterback in the regular season, borderline great. But in the playoffs, if you can't adapt, then you're not going anywhere.
Okay, so now Puma, Jay Chima, I'm a pretty big man, and I can admit when I'm wrong, right?
Okay.
I think you might have been right on the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, and I think I might have been wrong, right? And
Might?
because I'm still waiting to see what they do in Kansas City. Like,
Here we go. Here we go. Before it was like, win a playoff game and talk to me. All right, they won a playoff game.
Season.
All right. Beat Baltimore. Come talk to me. All right, they beat Baltimore.
Thank you.
No, I mean, if backing you up is just moving the goalpost, then okay, fine. Then that's a fact.
I've always said.
He has always said it.
I've always said if he goes into Kansas City and he beats Patrick Mahomes, I will give him his top 5 elite quarterback, status. But until then, what I did see from the field Saturday night, it is evident in the disparity in talent between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. You can just tell by one team and the confidence they had in Josh Allen compared to just how badly Lamar Jackson throws the ball. You can see who's a better quarterback. And it looks like Josh Allen really is taking this game to a new level, right? And I want to bring up a point that you brought up, Burge, about the amount of rushes they had. I think you're looking at it a different way. I think you should be looking at it in a way that Brian Daboll and that coaching staff has such confidence in Josh Allen's ability that they really don't have to throw the ball. They're just going out there and slinging the ball. They barely ran the ball, and they still won fairly comfortably, right? I'm not saying it's the best game by Josh Allen. He only really put up 10 points. He had a pick six that gave him 17 in total points. But you can just tell how confident one coaching staff was in Josh Allen and how the other coaching staff was trying to get every little bit more out of Lamar Jackson, but he just didn't have the ability to throw the football, right? So there's that. But on Lamar Jackson himself, I'm so out, man. It's been 3 years. The guy has barely progressed as a passer. They're trying to run him to a Super Bowl, which is not going to happen in the NFL. If anything, he's maybe gone incrementally better than last year, but it's not enough to be able to take down a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen for the next few years. So I'm going to go ahead and say that, Josh Allen looks good. Puma might have been right about it. And I think Lamar Jackson, I'm out on him. I'm completely out on Lamar Jackson.
Can we quickly talk about Tyler Huntley coming into that game when Lamar Jackson was knocked into...
He looked like a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson.
Dude, he came in and, man, he almost got them back in that game. Mm-hmm. He doesn't overthrow... Obviously, with the weather, we saw multiple overthrows from Josh Allen in this game. Can attribute a lot of that to the wind. But, I mean, he's... one pass to Hollywood Brown from being right back in that game with a chance to win it, and he overthrew Hollywood Brown, who was wide open. It was easily going to be 6 points, and that pass could have changed that game. I liked what I saw out of him coming in cold in that spot.
Yeah. Okay. Do you guys have anything else to say about this? You want to move on?
We'll save the rest of the game
I'll
preview.
save mine for the preview. Yep, save it for the preview.
All right. Let's move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into New Orleans and winning against the Saints. They won 30-20, final score. Puma, what did you think about this game? What was your analysis?
Brady had a good stat line. I think he threw for like 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. Drew Brees was absolutely horrid. If this wasn't really his last game, I think they would have put Jameis Winston in for the rest of the game. In my opinion, those 3 interceptions were just absolutely brutal. One of the things that killed the drive. I'm not going to put on Drew Brees. That was the fumble by Jared Cook. You need to stop carrying that ball out like a loaf of bread and just waiting for it to get punched out. Just ball security. Like that team on that drive was rolling. They had a great rhythm going. If they would have scored on that drive, it possibly would have been a different game at that point. But fumble recovery turned into a touchdown by, I believe, Ronald Jones. But I mean, the Buccaneers defense showed up. I mean, they showed up. They picked off Drew Brees 3 times. They shut Michael Thomas down to 0 receptions on 5 targets. They kind of neutered this offense, and it kind of sucks because the Saints were all in on this year because next year they're in absolute cap hell. They're $100 million over the cap. Drew Brees is probably going to retire. I would not be surprised if Marshawn Lattimore ended up being traded at some point because, you have to free up cap space. He's going to want to get paid. He's one of the best, players in the secondary in the NFL at this point. So there is going to be in my opinion, a giant purge out of this Saints roster coming home next year. They just have no money to spare at this point. And I kind of I never thought I'd live to see the day, but when you think about it, Drew Brees is kind of overshadowing the fact that Tom Brady is going to the NFC Championship game despite Drew Brees' performance. He laid an absolute egg. Another home exit for the New Orleans Saints. All they're talking about is Drew Brees riding off in the sunset. When it's let's call it for what it is. We could be sentimental later. Drew Brees sucked in this game. He might have been. He was the reason, in my opinion, that this team lost the game. I think if they had Jameis Winston in there, they would have had a little bit more of a puncher's chance because they could at least push the ball downfield. But all props to Tom Brady going up to the frozen tundra on Sunday. It's going to be a hell of a matchup, but it kind of sucks that he was overshadowed a little bit by Drew Brees at this point.
Where's what you got?
All right, I'm gonna start with a disclaimer. I don't want to be called a hater right now, Jay. Do not call me a hater of Tom Brady.
Well, let me be a judge of that.
Okay, so watching this game, yes, Drew Brees was about as bad as you could be in this game. I mean, those 3 interceptions were awful and put the the Bucs in an easy position to wrap this game up. I'm gonna put this loss more. Given Drew Brees' performance in this game, that fumble by Jared Cook was an absolute killer. All right, rolling on that drive, you're up by a touchdown, and you give that ball away to Tom Brady on the short field. We know what Tom Brady does on short fields. He makes you pay for it. We've seen it for 20 years. He makes you pay for it. Now, talking about Tom Brady going to his 14th championship game in 20 years playing, unheard of, fantastic, love it. He didn't really have to do all that much in this game to secure his team's victory going down to Lambeau Field to face the Packers. His touchdown drives, he had a 3-yard touchdown drive, a 40-yard touchdown drive, and a 20-yard touchdown drive to basically wrap up this game for the Bucs. This game is solely on the Saints losing it and crapping all over themselves. Drew Brees throwing the 3 picks. I think it's evident his arm can't do it anymore. Hell of a career for him. I kind of hope he wraps it up because, you got to know when it's time to ride off, to retirement. And I think he's there. I think it's best for the Saints if he does that. Because, the best throw of the game was from their backup quarterback, Jameis Winston, on that trick play. That was unbelievable. And, this win, all on the Bucs defense. They showed up to play in this game, and they made Drew Brees pay for his mistakes. Looking forward to the Bucs going up to Lambeau Field next week. It's going to be fun seeing Brady Rodgers in a championship game.
Yeah. Listen, I was impressed by the Bucs win as well. The Bucs had a complete team effort. Essentially, they ran the ball fairly well with Fournette and Ronald Jones. They had about 120 yards in running. Tom Brady himself had about 199, 200 yards, something like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It comes down to essentially you're looking on the field, and I know Tom Brady. A lot of people thought he wasn't going to be able to go down to Tampa Bay and essentially have success. They thought, he was done over the hill, noodle arm, blah, blah, whatever. But when you look on the field, you really saw just the brilliance of Tom Brady because he's still out there slinging the ball as hard as he can. I mean, at some point he was putting too much mustard on the ball and you had to kind of ease it back a little bit. And then you look across the field to Drew Brees, who's like a year younger than him. 18 months is what I guess the age gap is. And the guy can barely throw like 10-yard out routes, you know what I'm saying? Like he's throwing little lollipop throws that are getting picked off. And you can just see just the difference in quarterbacking between a 43-year-old and a 42-year-old. And in total, man, listen, I'm not going to say they won this game because of Brady, but he played the game as the New Orleans Saints defense dictated, right? The Saints played 2 high safeties. They gave them everything underneath. It was the old Patriots way of dinking and dunking, death by 1,000 paper cuts. That's the only way they could have won that game. And Brady was patient, right? I know in the beginning of the year, the Buccaneers would not be patient enough. When they wouldn't hit the deep ball, they would get frustrated. They would start to unravel a little bit. They didn't have the mental toughness to actually go through 14, 15 play drives and get the touchdown. They just wanted the big long ball. So credit to the Buccaneers. The defense showed up. I mean, after all year long, this defense has been streaky. Some games good, some games bad. They showed up when they mattered the most. Tom Brady essentially took what the defense gave them, and he's going on to his 9 out of 10 conference championship games now in the last 10 years, 14 overall in 19 seasons. So hell of an accomplishment. I know a lot of people wanted to see Tom Brady fail, but the guy is still back in the NFC Championship game.
Oh, it's great to see, and the game was vintage for him on offense. I mean, he was doing exactly what he needed to do to win the game. He doesn't try to do too much. We've seen it here in New England where in the playoffs sometimes, he doesn't have his best game, but he does enough to get it done. Mm-hmm. And he did that here. But I just want to say, Jay, you called my argument lazy last week about how hard it is to beat a team 3 times in one season, and this proved it.
Well, how does this prove it? I mean, yeah, you got lucky on this one, but the numbers bear out. I think the number was essentially there was like 17 times, a 2-0 team went and played a team the third time in the playoffs. 12 out of the 17 times the team that won again. It was 3-0. So, I mean, like, it's not just like, all right, well, it's hard to beat the team 3 times in a row. I mean, it's just every game stands on its own. I mean, it just the ball bounced differently this way,
Well, I mean, you go look back at the Saints in that last matchup. They blew out this Buccaneers team, all right? They made some adjustments. The coaching staff, say what you want about Bruce Arians. He's an absolute buffoon. His comments earlier this week, I just wanted to, knock him out. But they made adjustments and they made it happen. And I'm telling you, it's hard to beat a team twice in one season, with one of those being in the playoffs. Let alone 3 times. All you got to do is look back to the Patriots and the Giants in 2007.
Well, I didn't expect the Drew Brees' arm to fall off, essentially. I mean, this is not the same quarterback that was playing in the first 2 games. And we've seen this the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, Drew Brees would come out hot. He would look good. He would kind of tail off towards the end. And maybe it is because of some of his play that they haven't been able to get over the hump in the playoffs. I think deep down, Sean Payton is probably happy that Drew Brees has decided to call it a career, because he has nothing else left, man. He really doesn't, and it's just sad. But whatever, it is what it is.
Where do you rank him? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick, I think what kind of chaps me a bit more is they'll pull Drew Brees all the time to put Taysom Hill in, but it is clear and obvious, to use NFL officiating terms, even to 100 drunks in a bar, probably me included, that Drew Brees was not cutting it in that football game. So why not just put Jameis Winston in and have a puncher's chance? I said it last year on the pod. I said it even before we were recording a podcast that, Sean Payton is, he'll put the foot on people's throats in the regular season. And when it comes playoff time, the guy looks like Tarzan and plays like Jane, and he gets skittish. And it's a 3rd year in a row where they have another back-breaking playoff home playoff loss. So, this isn't, to me, this isn't anything new to me for Sean Payton. We kind of saw the writing on the wall earlier this year with Drew Brees' arm. I think, you want to talk about adjustments. It's pretty sad when we can all agree that, Bruce Arians is a buffoon, and he is out-adjusting Sean Payton.
It's hard to put those other 2 losses on the coaching staff. Say what you want, but, I mean, they had some pretty bad officiating in those games.
Yeah, but Burge, the play calling in those games was absolutely tepid at best.
Let me finish. You're never going to be in a position to rely on the officials in any sport, and you're taught that from a very young age. But those calls in those games were egregiously bad. And you say what you want, but if you have Drew Brees on your roster, you're going to live and die by him, no matter what the situation dictates. It'd be the same thing if Tom Brady's arm decided to fall off. You're going to live and die by him in the playoffs if he got you there. So I don't fault Sean Payton for sticking with Drew Brees throwing the ball in this game. I don't. They brought Winston in for the play that nobody expected, and it was an absolute stunner of a play. But I'm not gonna call for Sean Payton's head because he's stuck with Drew Brees in a playoff game. Where he's done so much for the organization. He got them to this point. I'm not gonna compare him to Bruce Arians. I don't even start that.
No, I'm not comparing him to Bruce Arians, but it's just the last 3 years. He, even before the play call, even before the referees, which we can agree that they were brutal calls by the NFL officiating, but the plays up into those points, you call different plays, you don't play scared. You don't have to put yourself in a position where you leave it up to an official to either blow the whistle or eat the whistle at that point. And, I don't want to hear about live and die with Drew Brees when you keep pulling him out to use the gadget guy just to run on the goal line or to throw the football every once in a while. It was blatantly obvious he could not get the job done. It's not sentimental time, in the division round. You're playing to win the game. If you want Drew Brees to win a championship, Jameis Winston at that point might have just been their best option.
Yeah, listen, I think Sean Payton should have essentially given Drew Brees the Bill Belichick treatment, right? Essentially forced him out the back door because he really can't throw the ball, you know what I'm saying? Unlike Brady, who's still out there slinging it, you can see across the field. I was watching that game on Sunday night, and I'm thinking to myself, how is one guy 43, another's 42, and there's such a wide disparity in essentially their throwing velocity, right? One guy, they're both living in the same era. They both have the same access to nutritionists and health remedies and workouts and blah 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 blah. But one guy is out there essentially throwing heaters, and this other guy can't get the ball out on a 10-yard route. You know what I'm saying? It's just weird how it's panned out for both these quarterbacks.
You probably see it play out differently if Taysom Hill's healthy in this game. I'll say that. You probably see it play out differently. Maybe they're scared about Jameis Winston. Obviously they started Taysom Hill when Brees was out. So, that kind of speaks a little bit of volumes there. Maybe they're worried about Jameis Winston throwing one of his 30 interceptions again. Who knows? But if Taysom Hill's healthy in this game, perhaps you see it played a little bit differently.
Yeah. It is funny how all of a sudden, like the Twitter sphere goes in a tizzy when how Jameis Winston hits a wide open guy that has like nobody around him for 20 yards, and all of a sudden, oh, Jameis Winston's a savior, blah blah blah. I mean, the guy.
Hell, they actually want to sign him.
I think you saw the trust that Sean Payton had in Jameis Winston. Like, I mean, why would he not go to Jameis Winston in that fourth quarter if he didn't trust in him? You know.
Sean Payton playing scared.
All right.
Sean Payton playing scared.
Sean Payton, I mean, you can rationalize it however you want, but I think Sean Payton's telling you, Jameis Winston, I don't have trust in him. I have trust in him to come in and throw one gadget play, sure, but I'm not going to start him over Drew Brees. I mean, we've got to, you know, essentially
at that point, Drew Brees already threw 3 picks. Why not have one more?
So what you're saying is like essentially Sean Payton is doing his best to put his team in a worse position to win. Is that what you're trying to say?
I think he's just trying to be sentimental because, listen, I'm not saying Jameis Winston would have came out there and would have been the savior. I said he would have given a puncher's chance. He probably would have thrown 2 picks in that game. But at least you would have kept the defense honest because everybody on that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense was just waiting and sitting on the short routes because that's all Drew Brees could throw. Like, at least Jameis Winston gives a different dynamic to that offense by throwing the football down the field and testing a pass defense that's ranked 21st in the NFL, averaging about 241 yards given up per game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, we'll see what they'll do in the future. I mean, they have quite a big decision to make on their hands. They still have Jason, is Jameis just a 1-year contract or 2-year contract?
1-year contract, but they actually are kicking the tires and possibly bringing him back next year.
Yeah, which would be a horrific mistake if he's the starting quarterback next year. Like, I don't know why we keep doing this over and over again, but you know we've seen who Jameis Winston is in the NFL. The guy will throw you 30 touchdowns, but he'll also throw you 39. He'll have 39 turnovers. I think it would be a mistake for Sean Payton to use him as his future franchise quarterback. But it might be a bridge guy. You never know.
They're better off running Hill back there, quarterback, for a season.
I think so too. I know Hill doesn't have the throwing arm and the throwing velocity that Jameis Winston does, but at least he's not going to turn the ball over 39 times. We know what crab legs can do, right? It's essentially, you know. And then there was this whole narrative this year that he had LASIK surgery, so now you can actually see what he's throwing to. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, the guy's a bum in the NFL. He is who he is. He's a backup. He's probably going to be a backup for the rest of his career. And let's just call it for what it is. They got to find a quarterback now.
In Jameis's defense, every first-year quarterback under BA's system has career highs in interceptions. So
Tom Brady didn't.
And he was getting pretty close.
But he didn't.
But he was getting pretty close. At one point, Jay, they were saying, maybe this isn't a fit for Tom Brady and Bruce Arians down there, and they were prematurely writing the obituary on that marriage. So,
and where are they now? They're in the NFC Championship game now.
Yeah, but again, like Jay, I'm just stating a fact that first-year quarterbacks, for the most part, have career-high years of interceptions. You can go back to Ben Roethlisberger, to Jameis Winston with his 30 last year, to I think Brady has 12. Which is, it's not career high, but it's an aberration from the norm for Tom Brady. Like, that's a fact.
The most since 2011 for Tom Brady.
I'm just saying, the guy looks pretty good. He's in the NFC Championship game, you know?
I mean, I'm not taking anything away from him, but I'm just stating that this is what happens in the first year with Bruce Arians.
Yep.
All right. Let's move on to the Cleveland Browns versus the Kansas City Chiefs. The Browns went into Arrowhead, came out with a loss. 17-22 was the final score. A lot of drama in this game. You know, at one point we thought the Browns were going to get blown out. And then Patrick Mahomes goes out with a concussion. And then they come roaring back, the Browns do, and they almost win the game. But Chad Henne comes to the rescue. So with all that being said, what did you guys see in this game?
Two things. I know everyone's going to say, like, oh, stupid rule, like fumble out of the end zone is a touchback. But, I can understand if you're going to reach out if it's 4th and goal. But when it's 1st and goal, like, you have 3 more plays that you can live and die with. Like, I don't think that's really the call. Sorensen getting called for leading with the helmet, that could go either way. And then the other thing, too, out of this game is just some bad in-game, like, 4th down management. It might be a tough task to go for it on 4th and 8 or 4th and 9, but I mean, if you punt in that situation, and this is what ended up happening, you're not going to see the football again, regardless of who the quarterback is for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think you have to go for it, especially if you're being reckless with the timeouts and useless challenges. But I mean, all in all, like, for what the Cleveland Browns have done this season, like, not to take a moral victory lap, But, considering what this roster was a year before to, hey, you're going to the AFC division round, I think that's a small victory in itself. I think Kevin Stefanski should be getting a lot of run for Coach of the Year. And even despite the Mahomes injury, I mean, this was a close game still. Mahomes was getting knocked around a lot in the pocket. He left with a toe injury. I'll hit that a little bit more in the game preview, but this is gonna be an interesting game in Arrowhead on Sunday for the AFC Championship game, and get your popcorn ready. That's all I'm gonna say.
Burge, what did you see?
This is one game I didn't get a chance to watch any of it. I was listening to it on the radio as I was driving around doing some work. But, Patrick Mahomes being dinged up, I watched the replay of that concussion. That was a very awkward play. And seeing him being as woozy as he was coming off the field, that's definitely something to be concerned about if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan going into this game against the Buffalo Bills. But, the biggest thing for me was that final drive with Chad Henne at quarterback for this team on that third down play. What was it, like third and 16 or 15, something like that?
Yeah.
And the coaching staff for the Cleveland Browns, they didn't coach anything to contain the quarterback. I mean, obviously they probably weren't worried about him running with it. I mean, he was 6 of 8 in this game for 66 yards. That's pretty effective for a guy that hasn't played in Lord knows how long. But you can't allow that quarterback to run for 14 yards on that play. You can't let that happen when you have a chance to get the ball back with the opportunity to go down and win the game. You can't let that happen. Kudos to Andy Reid. I've been a big critic of Andy Reid over the years, just with his clock management debacles that he's had over the course of his career as a coach. But man, that guy's got one set of cojones on him for going forward on 4th and 2 or 1 with his backup quarterback who hasn't played in forever to call a pass play on that play to Tyreek Hill to secure the game. It showed a lot as why Kansas City wins. They got the next man up mentality there. I mean, they were able to kind of limp out of Cleveland, so to speak, once their quarterback went down. But let me ask you this. What quarter was Mahomes hurt like that?
Third quarter.
'Cause I didn't see, it was the third quarter.
Yep.
Okay. So they were able to survive with a a 12-point lead at that point when he went out to win the game. They survived. They were able to get it done. I mean, Chad Henne threw an absolutely atrocious interception in this game, but they got it done. And Andy Reid trusted his backup guy to make the play to secure the game. They don't make that play, Cleveland probably wins the game. So hats off to Kansas City. In terms of Cleveland, they made it to the divisional round. I think they made it further than anybody actually thought they were going to this year. Kudos to them. Kevin Stefanski's done a great job up there. And, who knows what's going to happen next year, with Pittsburgh's situation for that Cleveland team. They got some good things to look up to going forward.
Yeah. Listen, I think Kevin Stefanski, for the most part, has had a great year, but he had a pretty bad game on Sunday. I just didn't like the game plan. He didn't use the running attack nearly as much as he should have. On top of that, he had a couple of really questionable challenges. Well, one challenge and one non-challenge, essentially, that I think really kind of cost him. And you saw the inexperience of a head coach for the first time, essentially in the playoffs. And you saw a guy on the other side, Andy Reid, that has quite a bit of experience. And the amount of cojones he has is absolutely unbelievable. But I think this game, I mean, if Patrick Mahomes goes out in the third quarter and he's not on the field for the Chiefs, like you got to win this game. Like Baker Mayfield and Stefanski somehow have got to figure out a way to win this game, right? Because at the end of the day, like I know a lot of people say, well, this is their first year in a long time. They're getting stronger. They might come back next year. The Browns might make some more noise in the playoff next year. That's not a guarantee, right? I mean, I always say this about the Titans. Like it was their chance to win last year. And that was it. Like, I mean, when they were up 10 points in the AFC Championship game against Kansas City and they weren't able to close that out, they're never going to close it out. I mean, they might not get back to that AFC Championship spot again. Same thing with the Houston Texans last year. They're up 24 points. You essentially had a chance to put your foot on the throat of the Chiefs, and they still somehow let the Chiefs slip up and win that game. And now they're not in the playoffs. So you've got to essentially, when you get these opportunities, you've got to capitalize on those opportunities, man. And this was a big blown opportunity for the Browns, man. Okay, let's move on to the NFC Championship game. We've got the 13-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling up to Lambeau to play the Green Bay Packers at 14-3. Weather forecast calls for about 80% chance of 5 inches of snow in the afternoon, so it might be a snow game for us for our viewing pleasure. So, with that being said, Puma, who you got win this game?
For those listening, we purposely skipped the Rams-Packers game. There wasn't a whole lot to take away from it, so nobody gives a shit. But for this game, for the NFC Championship game, I like Green Bay a lot in this game. The point spread right now, it's 3.5. The over/under is at 50.5 points. I like the Packers to win. It's going to be a rematch from Week 7, I believe, where Aaron Rodgers and this team, they got manhandled. They gave up 38 unanswered points after going up 10-0 in the first quarter. Aaron Rodgers had a brutal day. I think it was like 2 interceptions and just had a very bad day at the office. I think he got sacked like 5 times. But I think this time around it's going to be different at home with the snow. I know Tom Brady's played in the snow for the majority of his, actually for all of his career up until this point. But we saw this in Washington, where Chris Godwin, for example, like it wasn't as cold in Washington as it's going to be up in Lambeau, and he had 5 drops in that game against the Washington football team. It's definitely something to keep an eye out for this young roster not being in a cold environment like this prior to this game. But I think Packers, they have to keep Aaron Rodgers clean. They got to keep him upright. I think the defense for the Buccaneers played complimentary football last week, but that was against an offense that couldn't push the football more than 10 yards down the field. This Green Bay Packers offense, I think they're top 5 in passing offense. I think it's going to be a shootout. I like the over-under in this game. A big return for Tampa Bay is Vita Vea. He got activated off the injured reserve after breaking his ankle. Apparently, they shot him up with some avocado ice cream and had him working with TB12's trainer, and he's miraculously good, like Mr. Miyagi, clapping his hands and rubbing his hands together in the Karate Kid. But I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going with Packers laying to 3.5 points.
Bart, who you got?
All right, I'm gonna speak objectively here, probably for the first time since I've been on this podcast. I like Green Bay in this game. I'm gonna go double down on what I said before. It's tough to beat the same team twice in one season, let alone 3 times. And going up to Lambeau Field, a snowy environment could impact this game quite a bit. I love what Green Bay's running game is going to bring to this game with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. They had themselves a field day on Saturday against the Los Angeles Rams. I don't see Aaron Rodgers losing again to this Buccaneers team. The offensive weapons with Davante Adams, speaks for himself. But also, if you look at the stats from this game on Saturday, Alan Lazard was involved, Robert Tonyan was involved, to a lesser degree, Marcus Valdes-Scantling was involved, and I think that they're going to continue to involve those offensive players. Like you said, Jay, earlier, this Buccaneers defense has been very streaky throughout the year, and I like Aaron Rodgers to come out and pick this defense apart. Like you, Puma, I agree. I think this could very well be a shootout. With the Buccaneers offense, putting up some points. Tom Brady is a veteran of playing in the snow. He's made his name playing in snow games up in New England during his career. But I like Green Bay to win this game, laying the 3 points. And that being said, my heart is pulling for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this game.
Wait, did you say you're going to pick the Buccaneers to win or the...
It was the hedge.
Oh,
it was a hedge.
No. No.
Like last week. I'm going with the Saints, but
easy.
Well, listen, man.
I am sticking with my Super Bowl pick here. I've been picking the Green Bay to go to the Super Bowl for the last 6 weeks. I'm sticking with them, but my heart wants Tom Brady to get number 7.
Yeah, listen, man. I'm kind of the same boat as you as well. I mean, listen, I would love to come on here and say that the Buccaneers are going to win this game. It would give me nothing more, nothing. I mean, it would be a great pleasure for me to watch Tom Brady go to his 10th Super Bowl or whatever it is. But realistically, I mean, this Buccaneers defense, like they're not going up against a quarterback that can barely throw a 10-yard out route. They're going up against Aaron Rodgers up in Lambeau. And like I said earlier, this defense can be great one week and shit the next week. They made Tyler Heineke look like Joe Montana, and they were able to capitalize on Drew Brees' mishaps. So, listen, I think the only way the Buccaneers win this game is if somehow Brady gets in the 40-point range. I mean, that's a lot to ask for him up there in the cold Lambeau snow. I'm sure he's fine, but I'm not sure the rest of his team is going to be fine up in the cold. So I think I'm going to go with the Packers. It might get ugly depending on how much snow there is. I feel like the Packers will have an advantage just because they live and breathe up in that cold weather and the snow. I think it's going to be somewhere in the realm of like a 35-27 final score with the Packers winning. And, you know, at the end of the day, I would love for Tom Brady to go to the Super Bowl, but I just don't think this is the year it's going to happen. I think next year is the big year for the Buccaneers to make their run, especially with Drew Brees retiring and the Saints not really knowing what they're going to do. The Falcons in some of a rebuild mode, and the Panthers, we don't know what they're going to do either. So that's when they'll be able to reel off and get that division title, maybe win the first, second seed or whatever it is, and hopefully host a home NFC Championship game. So we'll see what happens this Sunday.
The only thing that scares me in this game is the Packers defense. They give up garbage time points like it's their job. And I think that if they're no game is out of reach with Tom Brady. We can all agree on that. Like if it comes down to a defensive stand for the Green Bay Packers to win this game, like I would be like that gif from Key and Peele where the guy is just sweating bullets, because we've seen that all year. We saw that against the Eagles. The Eagles almost came back. They gave up a bunch of garbage time points. They've given up a bunch of garbage time points this year. So that's the one thing that kind of scares me about the Green Bay Packers. I'm not changing my pick. I think Green Bay wins, but it is definitely not beyond the realm of possibility of this Packers defense just imploding despite an effort by Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, man. And listen, I think the only way I can see them winning besides scoring 45 points is like if it's somehow 27 all, there's 2 minutes left and Tom Brady has the ball. I mean, at that point, I've seen it enough times that he's going to muster out a field goal or a touchdown to win. But, stepping back for a quick second, man, like, I don't want to go on a whole little rant about this, but like, I think it's impressive what Tom Brady has done so far this year. The fact that he left New England and went down to the Buccaneers, I mean, a pretty bad, overall franchise with their win-loss record historically. And, he went down there with no offseason, COVID issues, everything else that goes into it. Came out not the best against the Saints, had a couple good games, kind of bottomed down in the middle of the season, and now they're kind of making a strong run. It's just a testament to the effort and job that Tom Brady has done with that team, and it's absolutely insane to see him in his 14th conference championship game now. So well done, and I think next year we'll see an even stronger run from these guys.
No, I agree with you there. I think this is a testament to his greatness. His legacy. When he eventually hangs it up, I was one of the believers that thought this team was that was barely going to be a playoff team. I really didn't think they were going to get in. And, it just shows, how great of a quarterback he really is. I wish he was still here in New England doing the same thing. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But, it really speaks volumes to him that he can come down and turn a team around and find a way to win to get to an NFC Championship game. So it's, like I said, I'm rooting for him, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, and it was kind of sad seeing Brady and Brees play the other night, and it really hit me like once they were showing the post game where they were hanging out and talking. I'm like, damn, this is about to be the end of an era in the NFL, right? I mean, Brees is retiring. Pretty soon you got Phillip Rivers and Big Ben retiring. All the people that I grew up watching, these guys are about to be the old guard here soon. But I'm just. Like, I'm stunned. Like, I myself thought the Buccaneers were going to do a 10-6 run, maybe squeak in, not really have a chance in the playoffs. But the fact they won 11-5, they're back in the NFC Championship game. And I think the biggest thing for me is I just cannot believe that Tom Brady hasn't lost, like, any velocity on his ball. Maybe like 5%, like, in total, like, over the last 10 years. But some of the balls he's throwing, I mean, he hit, like, he had like 4 missed deep balls. 2 were to Gronk that were off his fingertips. 1 was Marshawn Lattimore covering Mike Evans, and then 1 was the Godwin drop. But the guy is still out there slinging it. So we'll see. We'll see how this game pans out.
Max Kellerman calling that cliff.
Yeah, Max Kellerman has been trying to get him to retire for 5 years.
Longer than that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because like you see some of these commentators go on national TV. You've got Max Kellerman, you've got Nick Wright on FS1. Shannon Sharp, who just despise, who loathe Tom Brady. They've been calling for his career to be over for 5 years now. So I'm just glad he's out there doing it, man. And listen, as you get older, man, you realize like eventually Tom Brady's gonna go away. So you just try to like steep it in and soak it in. So I'm just trying to take in this week and see how it pans out and really make a strong run next year.
Let's go.
Okay, let's move over to the night game, the 6:40 game between the Buffalo Bills at 15-3 traveling to Kansas City to play the 15-2 Kansas City Chiefs. Burge has requested to go first here, so Burge, you've got the floor, sir.
Wait. Hang on. Let me top off on the whistle pig. Here we go. The floor is yours, Burge.
Are we doing a take it to the bank this week?
I didn't come up with a pick.
I didn't come up with one, so
if we were,
oh, here we go.
I'm taking it to the bank. The Buffalo Bills are going to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
They are going to go into Arrowhead, and they are going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, who will play in this game on Sunday. Puma,
see, I'm on to you, Burge. You're doing like the reverse jinx. I love it. It's great. Brother, I might have been born at night, but I wasn't born last night, okay?
Who has hijacked Burge's body?
Yeah.
Hey, no, you know what? I am secretly rooting for a Bucks Bills Super Bowl this week.
God.
So my boy Tom Brady, who everybody says I'm a hater of Tom Brady, and that I hate him, that he left New England, and that he sucks, and this and that. But I would love for Tom Brady to stick it to the Buffalo Bills once again.
Here's the biggest Tom Brady haters on the planet. You got Bill Belichick, and right behind him is Burge.
No, you got to put Puma ahead of me. Come on.
I'm not a hater.
Jesus.
Puma does say Tom Brady. Yeah, I'll get that.
I don't double down as much as you do. Jesus. State my case, call it a day. State my case.
All right, since Puma was on to me on this, I gotta speak objectively here. I think the big thing here is going to be Patrick Mahomes' health going into this game. If Patrick Mahomes doesn't play, it's going to be Buffalo, no matter what. This is going to be a good game. I think the home field advantage, is going to play a big part in this. You heard what the Ravens said after the game on Sunday or on Saturday in Buffalo, that the Bills fans actually had an impact on the Ravens this year. These players are not used to playing with fans.
I thought about that because it's like all of a sudden you just interject a team going into an away stadium and there's fans there. I feel like that's definitely a big competitive advantage, even though it's only 6,000 fans.
No, I think any fans in that stadium, make a difference. Especially because these guys have grown accustomed to not playing with anybody in the stands, so your communication on offense is significantly impacted by any kind of noise that's interjected into the stadium. But if Patrick Mahomes is healthy, can go. I'm not going to pick against him. I'm not going to until somebody beats him in the playoffs. After Brady left New England, and when somebody beats him in the playoffs, then okay, we can have that conversation. But the Bills, everything seems to be aligning for them this year. With everything that's going on, it seems like they might be a team of destiny, given all the events that are going on. Patrick Mahomes getting hurt, them allowing fans in the stands. Obviously, you look back to last week. Who would have thought Justin Tucker was going to come out and miss 2 chip shots and doink them off the uprights in a game? Everything seems to be falling into place for this Bills team. I will be violently rooting against them in any game that they play the rest of the season. As you all know, I am probably the biggest Bills hater, non-objectively speaking, that you probably know. But it's not going to surprise me if they squeak this out, especially if Patrick Mahomes isn't 100%. That concussion he took, like we talked about earlier, was kind of a big deal. But I'm gonna take the Bills to win this game in hopes to change my fortune. I'm going to take it to hope to change my fortune in picking games against the Buffalo Bills this year, because they continue to prove me wrong, and it's continuing to take years off my life. So, you know what? Bills win this game. Puma, what's the spread in this game right now? It was a pick 'em at one point.
The spread, it's been going back and forth between 2.5 and 3. Right now it's at Kansas City's 3-point favorites. So it's the line's built in assuming that Patrick Mahomes is playing.
Give me Bills. Give me Bills with laying the points plus the points here. Let's go. Give me the Bills. Let's go, Bills.
You've got an alliance here on the podcast with the Bills.
So
It's a fake alliance.
So before like the game breakdown on my end of what I'm looking for, like just from a betting perspective, we're kind of getting ahead of things real quick. But like if Chad Henne is announced as the starter, what would you guys set the betting line at?
Oh, like what? 10 points maybe?
Which
7 or
way
10?
though?
No.
Buffalo is 10 points.
Yeah,
10-point
Not
favorites?
in KC.
Yeah.
Not in KC. Not in KC.
maybe all right, maybe 7-point favorites. How about
I'll
that?
go 6. I'll go 6
I was gonna
point
say
favorites.
6.5. I was gonna say 6.5.
Okay. All right, at least we're kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I know. Patrick Mahomes is kind of air quote cleared the first hurdle. He's practicing on a limited basis. They're going to see if he has any more concussion like symptoms after the fact. Tomorrow, Wednesday is going to be a big day. If he's able to do a full participation in practice and doesn't show any like side effects still of having a concussion, then he's probably going to be a go on Sunday.
Well, people are making the case on Twitter and like on on the social media rounds that it really wasn't a concussion. It was more about like him losing maybe oxygen to his brain with the way that it was tackled, and the defender's arm was around his neck. Maybe it might be a pinched nerve in his neck that caused the issue. Sure, they threw him in concussion protocol just because of how he looked coming off the field. I understand that, but it might not be a straight up concussion as it is as normally concussions come.
Right. It might have been like, it could be like one of two things. It could be like in boxing where you hit the button, like you hit that nerve and just knocked out. Mm-hmm. Or I know like it doesn't look optically like, hey, he hit the front of his head or he hit the back of his head on the ground. But like the way he went down, like it's not beyond the realm of possibility that was like whiplash upstairs either. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm no doctor. In my opinion, the dude looked out of it. So
of course, yeah.
I think he's going to play, but who knows? And the concussion protocol for the NFL is going to be really put up to test this week. But I'm going to stick with my guns here. I got Buffalo winning this football game, and I think the key to that, even if Patrick Mahomes is playing, is the Bills. This defense has to adapt again. They adapted against the Baltimore Ravens last week. They shut down the run. They gave up 153 yards on the ground, but everybody thought they were going to rush for 300. They snuffed that out. They did their thing against Lamar Jackson. They bent but didn't break against the Colts the week before. And I think this defense, it is a different defense from what the Kansas City Chiefs team that they played, in week 4, where they only lost by 9 points. They gave up a ton of yards on the ground, but that game, there was no Josh Norman in the secondary. There was no Matt Milano to clog up the middle of the field as well, too. So I think this is a much different narrative for the Buffalo Bills defense. If they're able to do what the Denver Broncos did on Sunday Night Football, and I know I keep referencing this on the podcast, but if you're able to keep things in front of you and you're able to condense the vertical threat that the Kansas City Chiefs have, you stand a puncher's chance to start trading touchdowns for field goals. And if you're able to do that, this offense is one of the best ones in the league. I think they're 7th in passing offense. Kansas City's 1st, Tampa Bay's 2nd. I think Green Bay's 5th in passing offense. If you're able to do that on the defensive side of the football and you give this offense a chance, you can upset this team in Arrowhead. And I've said this till the cows come home. This isn't just from a betting perspective. This is just from the optics test, that since the New York Jets game, this Kansas City Chiefs team has won by 1 score or less. They only won by 5 against the Cleveland Browns. If the Browns make a stop on 3rd down with Chad Henne, they probably win that football game. But they haven't won in convincing fashion since the Jets game. They seem to have been coasting through, getting to the playoffs and getting to the Super Bowl. And with this also toe injury for Patrick Mahomes, he has been, that could limit his game. Like we saw this last year in the AFC Championship game where he could move the sticks, he could keep the defense honest to a certain extent, and he could rush in for a touchdown in the red zone, which this offense is 15th in red zone offense. If he's not able to move the sticks and be a threat in the running game, I think this is just going to play in the Buffalo Bills' hands. I'm gladly taking the 3 points, and I'm not that confident in the over-under. I might wait, but I'm taking the Bills in this game. I think they're the team of destiny. I think they've been playing the better football the latter half of the year. I mean, they've won 11 out of 12 games, including the Hail Murray game.
Yep. Hey, what's the over-under? Have you got that number in front of you?
Yeah, it's, let's see. Earlier today it was 53. I don't think it budged, but let's take a gander.
I would take the over on that 53, man. I mean, especially the weather-wise. I saw that there's.
I think it's calling for snow there too.
Yeah, it's supposed to be essentially rain turning into ice, into snow, which would suck more than anything. I mean, I'd rather have snow than that whole rain and ice bullshit because that really messes with the passing game. But while you find that, I mean, listen, I think I echo your sentiments, man. It's going to come down to how do you play Tyreek Hill, right? Essentially, you've got to play that defense where you make Kansas City drive for 14, 15, 16 plays and get a touchdown, right? Make them earn every little inch on the field. Don't give up the big play. Play that too high, maybe 12 yards off the ball safety look, and see how that goes, right? I would go in with the mindset of taking away Tyreek Hill and having somebody else beat me, right? Maybe bracket him, maybe have somebody roll over top of him, maybe roll coverage over to him. Whatever you got to do, take Tyreek Hill away, because if you let him run wild and he gets 200 yards or whatever it is and 2 touchdowns, there's no way you're going to win that game. So I will have the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game. But like I said, Puma, I mean, I can see the amount of trust they have in Josh Allen, with just how many times they've thrown the ball down the field against that Ravens game. And if they win this game, man, I mean, I'll be the first one to say, listen, you were right onto it. But until I see it, I can't go there just yet.
The over-under is 53.5, by the way, too.
I would take the over.
It went up half a point. I still might fade the over/under in this game. Mm-hmm. I'll probably wait. If you're able to bet this game live, I'd probably do that. But I'm with you. I think you're gonna see Trey White on Tyreek Hill all day. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets help from Jordan Pointer at some point. But I think Matt Milano is going to be all over not Tyreek Hill. He's going to be all over Travis Kelce. So it's going to be great. I think this is going to probably be one of the better games out of the two, in my opinion. Not just saying this as the guy banging the table for the Bills to go to the Super Bowl, but just with the young talent and the arm talent that these guys have, and both teams right now, like, that's no disrespect for the Packers and the Buccaneers, but to me on paper, I like this matchup a little bit more.
Yeah. I will say this, this is going to be the most complete offense that the Bills have seen since Week 4 when they played them. This team can run the ball too. I mean, I don't know what the deal is with Edwards-Helaire, is if he's healthy or not. But if he plays in this game, you have Le'Veon Bell back there, you have Darrell Williams back there, that they can run the ball. The weather is going to be a big impact. If it's going to be what you guys are saying it's going to be, I haven't looked at it personally. But even so, even if Chad Henne does play this game, I feel like he's got enough on offense where he can manage the game to the point where it will at least be a close game. And if it was the 6.5 spread, as we talked about before, I would still take the Chiefs in this game, laying the points. Even if Trey White can take away Tyreek Hill in this game, can Matt Milano actually limit Travis Kelce to the point? I mean, this Bills defense gave up massive points to tight ends in their wild card matchup against the Indianapolis Colts with a quarterback who could actually throw. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, we already hit that, and Mark Andrews was taken away because Lamar Jackson is inept throwing the ball. But can the Bills take away a player of that magnitude is something I'm going to be looking for in this game. I'm taking the Bills to win, obviously for Puma's reason, as he caught me on it early on in this
plan.
take. But
it's not like we saw it coming a mile away.
Well, you probably told him about it because I told you about it. You probably
2 plus 2 equals 4.
I did not.
You didn't tell me anything.
I did not tell him anything about it.
Okay.
Bro, you saw you coming a mile away. Come on. But Puma, I got a question for you, Puma. Like, what do you think? You watch enough Buffalo Bills football this year. What do you think the philosophy is from Sean McDermott going in against, let's say Patrick Mahomes is healthy and the weather isn't that big of a factor and they're going to air the ball out and you got to score points with the Kansas City Chiefs. What do you think Sean McDermott's philosophy is? Is it run the ball, keep the ball away from them, or is it let's just air it out, let's try to outshoot them? What do you think he's going to go with?
I mean, we're going to go to the patented, dance with the girl that brought you there. Like, stay within yourself. Like, throw the football. I mean, this pass defense for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think I just had the stats up here. Kansas City's 14th against the pass, 21st against the rush. And I would say run the football more if they had Zach Moss there, but he blew his ankle out. I wouldn't be surprised if you see more Josh Allen scripted runs in this game. That's going to be one of my best bets this week. But you dance with the girl that got you there. And then on the defensive side of the football, we've seen this team adapt. And Sean McDermott is a hell of a coach. We've seen that this year as well, too. He has been able to get this team to adapt and recalibrate. And I think that's going to be the philosophy is just, stay within yourself on the offensive side of the football, / damn the torpedoes, and we're going to throw every play out there and just, lay it all out to go to the Super Bowl. But I have a lot more faith in this defensive unit, compared to, I think, a lot of people in regards to this game.
Yeah, I saw somewhere online this morning that essentially Zach Moss is out for the season. He had a procedure this morning.
Yeah, he got the tightrope surgery.
Yeah, he had a procedure this morning in Green Bay where the doctor was, and then he's going to be out for the rest of the season, but he'll be ready for off-season programs.
Puma, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Puma. Would you rather them lose on Sunday, or would you rather them lose in the Super Bowl if you're a Bills fan?
No, I get to the Super Bowl.
In terms of the arc of the team.
I say at this point, like, you're in uncharted territory. Like, a lot of people that I've been talking to that are Bills fans, like they were just expecting to win the AFC East and maybe get to the division, not even get to the division game. If they just won the AFC East, that would have been a victory considering where this team has come from. At this point, like, you have to go to the Super Bowl. Like, everything, the stars are aligning. This defense is peaking at the right time. This offense is hitting on all cylinders. Regardless of what happens in the Super Bowl and, like, the narrative of this franchise in the Super Bowl, like, you have to get to the Super Bowl at this point.
So let me ask you this: you're not afraid of the hangover of losing the Super Bowl?
No.
What, 25 years ago? What hangover is that?
No. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying in regards to the Bills franchise. I'm saying if you look at San Francisco this year. You look at like that.
I mean, you can look at Kansas City this year too, and it's been blatantly obvious that they've been in a malaise all season, just coasting after that Super Bowl too. Like, we hear more about like the Super Bowl slump than like the team that actually won it, like, being in the same boat, but like you could make that argument for the Kansas City Chiefs this year as well too.
You definitely could, but at the same point, like, this team has progressed so well over the last few years in terms of their record and their play. You're not in any way worried about that. You look at like the 49ers losing, you look at the Rams losing, you look at the Falcons losing, you look at the Panthers losing. If you want to go back that far back, like they just never got back there, and that's kind of what I'm getting at with this. Is if and I heard this on the afternoon show on 98.5, and it kind of perked something in my head. Like, if you're a Bills fan, like if you're not going to win the whole thing, you're probably better off losing on Sunday, just because you have room for growth. You get there, and then it's like, oh, you lost. You have that kind of that hangover. And you've seen it in the history of these teams. And you look at the Seahawks when they lost to the Patriots, they haven't been back. You look at the Panthers, they lost, they fell apart. The Falcons fell apart, the Rams fell apart, and the 49ers fell apart. The only team that hasn't in the last 5 years has been the Patriots, and they had Tom Brady. So it's like,
if that's
one of those.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, a lot of those instances, like the next year, like a lot of those core players were free agents. Like they hit the free agency market, they left. I know Richard Sherman, for example, like he stayed around for an extra, I believe, a year or two, but that core broke up rather quickly. I mean, this Bills team, like Brian Daboll's coming back. He's probably not going to get a head coaching job this cycle. Stephon Diggs is still under contract. Tre'Davious White got extended. Matt Milano's not going anywhere. Tremaine Edmonds is on a rookie deal. Like if this was like a damn the torpedoes, we have to win this year because we're going to lose a lot in free agency, I would buy a little bit to that take. But because a lot of this core team is under contract still, and maybe the only one big piece that may leave is Leslie Frazier, but this would be probably one of the more appealing jobs as a defensive coordinator, or if Brian Daboll left as an offensive coordinator to work with Josh Allen. So, I mean, if you go into this game thinking like, oh, as a fan, like we should lose so we don't get our hearts ripped out, and then like we don't do anything next year, then like, nah.
I'm not saying that, but I'm like, I'm looking like at the Falcons and the Rams too. They brought everybody back too for the most part, if not added at that point after they lost to the Patriots a few years ago. So I'm just making the point that if you're a Bills fan and you get to the Super Bowl and you lose like a heart-wrenching Super Bowl, say to Tom Brady and the Bucs, you lose to them again, that can send shockwaves through an organization. And
But what's the guarantee that you're going to get back to the AFC Championship game again?
Right.
AFC Championship game
no,
next
I'm
year
not
again?
saying there's a guarantee at all. I'm
like,
just saying
I was trying to make the point earlier with the Tennessee Titans, the Houston Texans. They had their opportunities last year to try to do something with that opportunity. You don't know if you're going to be able to make it back. I mean, because I know the narrative last year with the Titans giving up the 10-point lead in Kansas City was, well, listen, they still got Ryan Tannehill, they got Derrick Henry, and Vrabel's coming back. I mean, they'll be back in this game again, right? I mean, but that's not how it works. I mean, you've got to take advantage of the opportunity right now in the moment.
I'm not saying go out there and lose the game for that sake. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying in terms of the arc of the growth of this team, they've been trending up, and they get to the Super Bowl, they lose. All right, so what's obviously your next step of growth is winning the game. That's a pretty lofty goal to have going into a season in an NFL that is so difficult to get back there 2 years in a row. That's just the point I'm making. I'm not saying that this team is going to fall off a cliff and they're going to be 7-9 again. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying, like, in terms of from an organizational standpoint, you have a growth. Okay, you made the AFC Championship game. You lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, Kansas City is in a very good spot. They're the defending champions. Blah blah blah. You have a step up to grow from that point. You beat Kansas City. You beat the best of the AFC. You beat what's arguably being described as the next great quarterback in the league in Patrick Mahomes, and then you lose in the Super Bowl. I just think that could have a strong mental impact on an organization from even if you're returning everybody coming back the next year. I mean, I'm of the believer that the Buffalo Bills are a shot in the cannon this year, where they're just so good that they're a team of destiny that. At this point, that they're going to get there, and whether or not they win or not, up to see on Super Bowl Sunday. Can they repeat it? And I don't think they can. And I think that if they were to lose on Sunday, I would feel better about the Buffalo Bills next year than I would if they lost the Super Bowl. Just seeing the trend
what's the difference?
Of the last 5 years.
So wait a minute.
Yeah,
what's the
what the
difference
hell
if
does
they
that mean?
lose by a field goal in the Super Bowl? If they lose by a field goal in the AFC Championship game, like how is that going to better the psyche of ownership and fan and the fan base? Like, I'm sorry, Bruce, that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah, I think this is like some sort of subtle psychological jab at like the mental tenacity of the Bills. Like, is that trying to get at? Because none of this makes any sense. Like, I mean, if they get there this year and they lose, like, well, now they can look at it. Well, listen, we've already made it there. We know how hard it is to get there. Let's put the work in and try to repeat and get there and actually win it this time. Like,
I can understand.
Go ahead.
If it wasn't like a stable organization, right? Like, let's say it's the Philadelphia Eagles this year, okay? With like Jeffrey Lurie and the quarterback turmoil and the roster getting old and all that other nonsense, I could understand that. But like, they're running everybody back next year, minus Leslie Frazier. The Pakulas are a stable ownership group. This head coach is probably one of the best ones in the NFL right now. Like, I don't see the difference of if they lose by a field goal in the Super Bowl, if they lose by a field goal or 2 points in the AFC Championship.
I can
game.
make the case that if they get to the Super Bowl and they lose, now they're more prepared to know what know what they got to put in work next year to essentially get back to that point, right? The Super Bowl stage is big. Maybe Josh Allen has some nerves this time around, but next time around he knows what to expect. Like, you can go the other way with that as well.
Well, you can go the same way. You got Kansas City, who's returning all their players next year, and you beat them in the AFC Championship game. You're riding that high, and you go in and you lose in the Super Bowl to a 43-year-old quarterback, and that messes with your head. That's the point I'm trying to make here.
Yeah, but nobody said that when the Chiefs lost to the Pats in the AFC Championship game, and that game didn't go.
They lost in the AFC Championship game, and they won the Super Bowl the next year.
Yeah, but they weren't. But like, I still don't see the difference of like losing a championship game and losing the Super Bowl in like close fashion. Like, they lost in close fashion against the Pats, and then the next year they went to the Super Bowl. Like, that didn't like scar their psyche at all. Like, the Hunt family stable.
No, because they lost in the AFC Championship game, not the Super Bowl.
So how does
on the biggest stage?
I still don't.
Because you make it seem like the Buffalo Bills have the psyche of a 12-year-old. Like, they can't.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like, they have a young quarterback right now.
Patrick Mahomes was a young quarterback. Like,
he lost in the AFC Championship game, not the Super Bowl. That's the point I'm making. All right.
I'm a loss for
we'll
words.
see. Well,
Like,
we could have this conversation in a year
mean-
and see what happens.
the question I do
right.
have though is, if there is a Bucks-Bills Super Bowl, who does Bill Belichick root for in that situation? Which one would hurt him less?
Tom Brady winning.
Yeah, I think he would hardcore have a Buffalo Bills jersey on.
I disagree.
You
A
think
guy
he
you
would-
worked with for 20 years that helped you win 6 Super Bowls, I don't think that he's going to root against that guy.
No,
The amount of respect between them two, despite how everything ended, no.
So you actually think he'd be happy for Tom Brady, huh?
I think it's a lose-lose situation for him, but if he's
Well, that's what I'm
picking
trying
one,
to
he's
get,
picking
right?
Brady.
I mean, yeah.
He's
I
picking
think
Brady.
I think Bill Belichick is just going to be on his house in Nantucket with the TV off.
Yeah, well, we'll find out soon enough, man. That'd be hilarious. What Patriots fans should do if somehow it is a Bucks Bills Super Bowl and somehow the Buccaneers end up winning? Like they've got to get a billboard somewhere in Buffalo saying something along the lines of "Some things never change," blah blah, with the final score. Signed Patriots fans or something. That'd be hilarious.
That would be absolutely amazing. That would be amazing.
That'd be great. Cool. Well, you guys got anything else to say, or you guys want to wrap it up?
Just my personal best bets real quick for the
yes.
weekend. So I'm personally going to be putting these tickets in this week. I'm going to be taking the points with the Buffalo Bills. It's been floating at 2.5 or 3 points. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills in this game. The spread for the Packers has been solid at 3.5. I'm going to lay the 3.5 points with the Green Bay Packers against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I also, because I'm scared about the defense and there's only 2 games, I'm going to be dabbling a little bit more in the prop betting market this week. I like the prop of Tampa Bay to be the last team to score in that game. Like I said, I'm just scared about the defense. I think they're going to give up a garbage time touchdown. So I like Tampa Bay as the last team to score. I like the over in the Green Bay game. Right now it's 50.5. This has been a lock all year. I just personally have not bet it. Devontae Adams as the first one to score in that NFC Championship game. He's been on fire. I think he's been the first touchdown scorer 8 out of 9 weeks. Josh Allen just to score on the ground. I think he's going to get a rushing touchdown. And the prop market for the AFC Championship game has not been released yet. But if there's an over/under on the Josh Allen rushing yards, I kind of like the over in this game. The Kansas City Chiefs, they are kind of middle of the pack against the rush. I think because of the lack of running back depth, and no disrespect to Devin Singletary, but he's not an in-between tackle stumper kind of runner like Zach Moss was. I think they're going to have to throw the kitchen sink out. I think Josh Allen's going to be getting his wheels going a little bit in this game. So I like the over in the Josh Allen prop market this weekend.
So is it Devin Singletary and who else? Who else is the other running back?
Devin Singletary,
Freeman.
Devonta Freeman, TJ Yeldon, and a rookie on their practice squad. I just can't remember his name. They didn't call him up, but he had a good game, Week 17 against the Dolphins. But they didn't activate him the week prior with the Colts or last week.
Wow, TJ Yeldon, huh? I haven't heard that name in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Remember him and Trent Richardson were the biggest Alabama running back bust of all time?
Yep.
Trent Richardson. Oh, God.
Okay, cool. Anything else, guys? You guys want to plug it up?
I'm good.
Think that's it.
Go Bills.
This went surprisingly well. I was surprised.
Yeah, no shit.
All right, let's.
Next week will be fun. If the Bills lose, next week will be fun.
Yeah, we'll find out. Buffalo going to Tampa.
Now,
All
Puma,
right.
is this going to be a Jersey day on Sunday for you as well?
Let's see it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean,
true.
they won with a jersey on, so let's go.
That is your lucky
Show
jersey
me.
now, you know?
Oh, I have no problem showing you. I have no problem.
Show me. Let's go.
So this podcast and previous episodes of the Pro Football Radio podcast can be found on Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Do-do-do-do-do. Pew, pew, pew. That's right, people. We're finally approved on Apple Podcast. Jay has been a fucking wizard. He's been the guy pushing the rock up the hill, trying to get approval, and we finally crossed that river due to his efforts, and we are now on Apple Podcast under Pro Football Radio Podcast. We couldn't be more excited. So definitely leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a comment in the comment section. That'll help us get promoted on Apple Podcasts, make us a little bit more visible. So 5-star review. Give us that help, and let's get this out to the masses a bit more. Social media-wise, Facebook and Instagram, Pro Football Radio Podcast, Twitter at PFR Podcast. I'm on the Twitter machine, Brando_Puma. Jay Chima is at Jay Chima. Eric Burgess is at Burge the Goalie. You can definitely see him go toe-to-toe with everybody and their brother at 98.5. Definitely worth Comedy Hour when he's going hard in the paint against Adam Jones. But like, subscribe, download, 5-star review, hit us up on Twitter, social media. Let's go. The time has come. We're on Apple Podcasts, and we couldn't be any more goddamn stoked.
Well, when he's going toe-to-toe with Adam Jones or one Jay Chima.
The Jay Chima heavyweight battle, Jay Chima versus Burge this week was something else. You know, I kind of had to be the Chris Wallace this week, being like, listen, we can't spend like 35 minutes on like Bill Belichick versus Tom Brady. Not like it matters. We're at like a Joe Rogan-esque podcast right now for this episode, but listen, definitely.
We're at 94 minutes, and this was us trying to expedite this shit. It's 94 minutes trying to expedite it. If we went into the Bill Belichick Brady thing, it would be like 2 hours. It'd be like easy. 2 hours, easy. You know.
I mean, we wouldn't even got into the game recap of the division round.
That's fun. That's fun topics for the off season. And listen, I don't have to say much at all. I mean, I just gotta say, well, Tom Brady's in the NFC Championship game. What else do you want me to say?
Here we go.
Check the Burgess Facebook picture. That's all you gotta say right here. Check the Burgess Facebook picture out.
So is this still Lamar Jackson, or did you change it?
Oh, I just changed it.
Oh, to what? Josh Allen? I can't wait.
Is it Josh Allen?
You'll have to go look.
Well, I'm on Facebook.
Here we go. Don't mind the dead air time.
All right, well, send me a screenshot then, all right? Because I don't have Facebook. But.
Oh, look at that, Josh Allen! Look at that! I can't wait. I can't wait for all. Oh God!
So in your mind, Bert, do you believe that you're gonna somehow jinx the Buffalo Bills by picking them?
Yes.
Wow. What are you smoking? Because I would love to have some of it as well.
I wish I could have some of it too, but I can't.
I can't. So rum and coke it is.
All right. Well, listen. I hope you guys enjoy Championship Weekend. We thank you for your support, and we'll talk to you soon.
Via con Dios. And real quick before you hit end, Freddie Soliotis, you're fired. I hope he appreciates that. I almost threw my shoulder out, reached back on the chair.
Stings my ears every time.